Geek Out! Hey, welcome to another Someone Catching Up. I'm Sam.
I'm Chris.
I'm Jake.
And so what you're going to see this week and next week, you probably saw the book review yesterday. If you didn't, we just did a review for Bitch Planet Triple Feature. So in the spirit of that, we've got two interviews, which we'll split up across this week and next week. Kind of our Bitch Planet double feature. And this week we'll be leading off with Conley Lyons, who does the third story in the Bitch Planet Triple Feature anthology, The Invisible Woman. So without much further ado, and also that book comes out on Wednesday, June 14th. I should probably say that as well. On in comic book stores everywhere and on Comixology. But yeah, here's Conley to talk about her contribution to the anthology. And joining us this week, we have Conley Lyons. She contributes to the Bitch Planet Triple Feature, the short story Invisible Woman, which is that's the showstopper. That closes out the set.
Absolutely.
Conley, thanks for coming on the show.
Well, thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
So let's get the big question out of the way first. How did you get to become part of this anthology?
Well, if you believe it, it is actually because I broke my foot.
Oh. Everyone's breaking stuff.
I'm a runner, and so a friend of mine and we run a specific half marathon every year, and the year that this was I think 2015. We were due to run it, and I had broken my foot, and she was injured as well, and we found out about a month before the event that Kelly Sue was actually going to be down for that same half marathon, and they knew each other, and they had they're both writers, and so we all said, well, we're all injured, we're down at the same time, let's just make a pact that we'll just be in the back of the race, we'll chat, we'll have a good time, and that was pretty much what we did.
Just kind of hit it off, kind of commiserate over your injuries while still completing the race.
Exactly.
So, did she then, with the spin-off, did she kind of approach you and say, hey, this is coming up, we've got this, do you have a story for it set within the Bitch Planet universe?
Yeah. So essentially, when she asked me if I would be willing to pitch an idea, of course I said yes. And so I had submitted actually a completely different storyline from The Invisible Woman. But as we were talking back and forth and I got to chat with the MilkFed team, they came to me and they said, look, we really like your idea. We like your writing, but we have an idea for this separate character who's already appeared in the regular Bitch Planet series. And they asked if I would be willing to write a essentially backstory for her, and as soon as they told me who it was, I jumped at the chance. I was very excited about it.
Sure. Now, I would venture to say that given the state of the world today, Bitch Planet is perhaps one of the most important books on the stands. What does the series mean for you personally?
I think for me personally, not only is it a way to start hard conversations, but it's also a way to think about what's going on in the world and to laugh at it, to be angry about it, but also to kind of keep you focused on that bigger picture and that larger goal. So, if satire is reflective of the current climate and it's supposed to lampoon it without sounding ridiculous, very hard these days, but I think it's a good way to kind of let that tension out, but at the same time be mindful that, there's a lot of shit going on, and, we need to be aware of what's happening and stay engaged.
I will say that your series is both kind of like, your story in general it's certainly serious. It certainly hits all the serious notes and social commentary modes, but there's also this kind of just general sense of like a fist pumping, like, fuck yeah moment that you really get, almost like a big punk rock, like, both middle fingers up, but in a kind of a Norma Jean kind of way. So.
Oh yeah, exactly.
So I think you balance the fun and the politics quite well.
I'm glad. I think one of the things that I really enjoyed about just the whole process was once we got our artist Craig in, and he started just mocking up these beautiful pages. Mm-hmm. That was where a lot of the humor really came in for me. because generally I was approaching this very seriously, but also trying to put in a little bit of the humor. But I'm a writer; I'm not an artist, so it was really great to be able to work with him, and he brought a lot of really great ideas to the table as far as how far we could push it and how funny we could make it. And I really think it's a better story, because we had that collaboration.
Was Craig brought in by, was that kind of a match made in heaven? By heaven I mean like by Milk Fed, or was that something that, were you given kind of like a short list, or was he an artist that you had wanted to work with?
He was certainly Milk Fed approved. But he and I actually met at Heroes Con in Charlotte, North Carolina, last year. He and Val DeLandro and I were chatting. I guess it was the first night, and we all got along really well. And so when they told me that Craig was being brought on for the book, I was so pleased.
I was just in Charlotte like this past weekend. So, and
yeah?
Yeah, it was pretty, like, I always love that Charlotte is kind of this, like, I love the juxtaposition of Southern culture and, like, hipster culture. It's kind of this, like, bohemian bastion within a sea of Dixie.
Yeah, it's a really unique city, especially for this, I think, this part of the South. It's not Atlanta, it's not Richmond, it's very much its own thing, and there's a definite, I think, hippie vibe that's coming in leaps and bounds.
You guys still have that, like, excellent Carolina barbecue, though. It's I was up. I got to do some of that, and I got to hike. What's that? Pinnacle Peak as part of the down.
Oh, yeah. It's not Mountains to Sea Trail. What is it?
It's like the word stone is in there somewhere. Crowder.
Well, there's Stone Mountain is further out, but gosh, you could drive 30 minutes in any direction and hit a good hiking trail. So
yeah, I think it was Crowder State Park or something like that.
Yeah. Crowder Mountain's pretty close too.
Now, you guys you mentioned Heroes Con. That's coming up again. I think this will drop this episode drops the week before Heroes Con this year. What do you think it is about the kind of, and you kind of alluded as much, Jason Latour is based out of Carolina. Cullen Bunn, I believe, is based out of there. What do you think it is about, what is that kind of Southern flavor that you feel is native only to comics from the South?
I don't know if I can pick out a particular element, but it's one of those things you definitely recognize it when you see it. I think for me especially, it's kind of unique because I grew up in North Carolina, rural mountain part, so completely different from Charlotte. But it's just really interesting to meet creators from this neck of the woods. If you'll let me get a little regional, and
by all means.
I've really enjoyed seeing the kinds of work that Southern creators are coming up with, and all the different perspectives and the ways that they can tell different stories. Obviously, that's a big part of Southern culture, no matter where you are.
What would you say are some of your big influences when it just comes to storytelling in general?
I'm from the novel and short story world originally, so I would say one of my big ones is probably Faulkner. Never really liked reading a lot of Faulkner when I was in school, but later on, just kind of going back and reading all the communities and stuff that he created, and tragically those long-winded paragraphs, that is much more my style. So writing comics was definitely a real departure from what I'm used to.
Was it kind of how difficult was it to kind of change gears to go from writing prose to scripts?
Oh, it's a completely different mindset, and not only that, Kelly Sue likes to say that when you're writing a novel, you are God, you are creating your own world. Mm-hmm. And obviously when you are writing a comic, you are not, you are creating a world, yes, but someone else, the artist, is going to interpret that world and kind of chime in with their own vision and things that they might see based on what they're reading. So it's really unique in that way. I think it's very collaborative. It's much more, I wouldn't say freeform than writing a novel, but it's certainly very different.
I think it was this past New York Con. I managed to. We work for I write for the Image magazine, and we work for them at special events. I got the chance to kind of talk to Scott Snyder, and he was like, "Yeah, when me and Greg Capullo first started Batman, like I guess 6 years. Has it been 6 years? Good God, it feels like almost like a new team." But the sorry, Tom King. But the all due respect, but yeah, he was like, when we first started Batman, we didn't get along because he would script so tightly because of he wanted his version of Batman to be, he wanted complete control there, and then Greg Capullo had to take him aside and be like, "Look, you're the screenwriter, I'm the director. Trust me to like visualize your scripts." So
Right.
Did you had kind of mentioned that you and Craig kind of found the inherent humor and sense of fun within the Invisible Woman. Was that kind of something that you guys had from jump?
Well, initially that was one of the hurdles that I had faced, and I think one of the things that Kelly Sue and Val found as they were accepting pitches was that everybody was writing these very serious stories, and so for a book that's based on satire and kind of being outrageous but also outrageously funny, we kind of had to have that come to Jesus as well, where it was like, don't be afraid to be funny. Just make sure you're writing jokes, make sure you're letting these characters breathe a little bit. And so then as we were further along in development and bringing Craig on board, he definitely helped with that, especially in the visual humor sense. There are a couple of pages in particular that I really just love the twist that he put on them.
There's that one, again, I don't want to go into too much details, but because, again, Bitch Planet, triple feature out in comic book stores everywhere and on Comixology on Wednesday, June 14th. I've gotten really good at that, I think.
The speed.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Just the sheer alacrity. But there's that one final shot in your short story that is just the ultimate, just, again, without going into detail, there is a sense of defiant fun that really speaks to, I think, not just your short story, not just this anthology, but really the series as a whole. And I think you guys knocked it out of the park there.
And I think that particular beat was one that was so clear in our heads from the very beginning. Obviously a story will change and a comic will change as you take it through the different stages, but that was one where it just, from pretty much day one, we were all agreed that moment and that sort of hint of defiance and excitement, we had to hit that, and we knew we were gunning for that.
Was it kind of like that image is in your mind and you're like, okay, now we work backwards and how do we get to this moment kind of thing?
Yeah, exactly. It was reverse engineering.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, that when Sam and I finish reading it, we always have like a little dinner before we do the podcast, and we both
a little wine, pinkies up, of course.
Yeah,
obviously.
And we were just like, that was fucking awesome.
That was metal.
Yeah, that was awesome.
So, Conley, something we ask everybody that comes on the show: what are you currently geeking out over?
Let me think.
And it by no means has to be restricted strictly to the world of comic books. It can be anything. We had somebody brag about making milk plastic.
Yeah.
You remember that one?
Yeah, I do.
What the heck is milk plastic?
It's a thing. It's like that old-timey...
I forgot about that.
Yeah. I think that's the most obscure. I mean, did we have anybody like into taxidermy? I feel like we had somebody into taxidermy.
I'm going to say yes, just for the sake of
the comic
embellishment.
The comic crowd is a very eclectic, eccentric bunch. Some people just say Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Hey, I know plenty of people who are into Game of Thrones, but I'll give you two answers for this. I'll give you the comics answer, and then I'll give you the outside of comics answer, just to prove that I do things other than read and sit in my house.
Sure.
So I just picked up the graphic novel for Octavia Butler's Kindred. Have either of you read that book?
No.
Sorry.
Oh my God. Okay, so A, time travel. B, Octavia Butler. Genius sci-fi writer. And the graphic novel, just the depiction of it, and I'm about probably, quarter of the way through at this point, and it's one of those things where I have to tell myself, okay, you have to put this down now. You have to sleep. You have to, go live your life. but it's just I'm loving it.
That's always the best feeling when you have that when you're reading something.
Yeah, I've been.
It's like a catch-22.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's like you want the page turner, but it's like the dark gift.
Well, it's like like same kind of thing. Like I work really late nights, and so usually when I get home, it's like go to bed because then you have to do it all over again. But like I'm currently reading. It's not very long, but I'm reading Camelot 3000.
You're not doing it anymore?
No, that's audiobook. That's when I drive to work because it's 44 hours long. That audiobook.
You can always fit it into any time of day.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah. When do I want to be scared shitless by clowns?
Stephen King fits all moods.
It's true.
Jake's doing Camelot 3000. I'm trying to prepare for the Dark Tower film, which comes out I guess.
Oh.
Yeah, so I'm reading all 7 books of the Dark Tower, but the Dark Tower is always this collision course between the gunslinger and the man in black. So I'm reading all of Stephen King's all his work that has appearances by Randall Flagg too. Mm-hmm. So I'm like,
oh man,
I'm deep in The Stand right now, which is when
that's his longest book.
I know. I have the uncut.
Yeah, that's
version.
a huge book.
I remember I was at Barnes and Noble, and my dad knew I was reading, it's not technically reading obviously, but audiobooking it. And he was like, "Hey, look, it's your boy." And so they had the Stephen King section, and they had a copy of it that fell off the I picked it up. They're like, "Look, you can kill somebody with this thing." And I put it back on the rack, and it fell off the rack, and the entire store shook, and everything just fell off the rafters. And I was like, "Oh, damn!" Should I put that back up there?
Natural.
Yeah, the stand would just go through the fucking ground. Like the lights shut off, sparks are flying everywhere in slow mo.
If a copy of Pet Sematary fell behind it, then you should run.
Yes.
But otherwise,
yes.
Did something from his cocaine years,
or
The Running Man.
Yeah, Carrie falls over and one of the cash registers just starts freaking out, and pig's blood's flying everywhere.
Yeah. Do you have a Conley? Do you have a favorite Stephen King book?
Let me think. I always liked The Shining. Mm-hmm. That was probably my favorite. But one of the ones that I really appreciate now is Lacey's Story. Have you guys read that?
I have not.
I'm not familiar with that.
I always see that. I'm striking out. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I haven't read anything except Camelot 3000. Oh boy. But
I always see that at used bookstores. It's always Lacey's Story along with what? Okay, so you mentioned loving The Shining. What was your stance on Dr. Sleep?
You know what? I did like it.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
It's not my favorite, but I didn't hate it.
Beat some of his Richard Bachman period stuff.
Yeah, definitely agree there.
One of the ones that I got off eBay because it's kind of hard to find, which is really cool. I'm really enjoying it. It's just a kind of a short story thing. I think it's called Cycle of the Werewolf, with art by Bernie Wrightson, which I kind of got. Unfortunately, at this, around the time of his death, but it's I love werewolf stuff. It's just the coolest.
When Jake and I first met, he used to listen to "Werewolves of London" by Warren Zevon quite frequently.
Yeah, that's not just an October song for me.
that's an everyday song, year-round song.
Like I said, I feel like people are annoyed by that song because it's oh, Halloween. But if you if you listen to the lyrics, that song is the cleverest shit. I love that song so much.
Honestly,
so funny.
I mean, you can be almost halfway through the song before you realize, oh wait, this is Werewolves of London.
Exactly.
If it's just on in the background.
Yeah. Yeah, as long as it's not the Kid Rock thing that he did, where he sampled that and Leonard Skinner and everything. Is awful.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Cycle of the Werewolf is really cool. It takes place over a year, and each little chapter it's not very long. I mean, for Stephen King, it's definitely not long. It's really thin, but each I think it takes place over a year. I haven't finished it yet, but each kind of section is a month, and the art there's some the classic penciled black and white Bernie Wrightson, and it's back when Bernie Wrightson spelled his first name without the E on the end, just Bernie. I guess because there was also another Bernie Wrightson that spelled it with an E at the end, so it's kind of cool. But anyway, the art is I mean, of course it's amazing because it's Bernie Wrightson, but then there's some color art that in there, and it's really cool. It's something that before I started really diving into Stephen King, because I'm a super late bloomer with Stephen King, I had no idea that thing even existed. That's a really cool book.
Well, and honestly, I feel like Stephen King has written so much at this point that, I mean, you could come up to me and just name, adjective, noun, and be like, it's a Stephen King book. And I'd be like, okay, great.
Yeah. It's 1,000 pages, and he wrote it in 3 days.
Yeah, starring Tom Hanks.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I think they're also the renaissance of their, rebooting, like, so much of his properties. Of course, the 2 trailers they've released look wonderfully terrifying, and from what I've heard, it's going to be a 2-part and broken into 2 parts. Because 1, the story's so long, and 2, it deals with the kids and them when they're grown up. But also they're redoing Firestarter, I think.
Oh.
And then
For some reason, I keep thinking Firefox starring Clint Eastwood.
oh yeah. And then of course they're doing the Dark Tower, movies. So it's only a matter of
I gotta
time.
say, I'm not a fan of that trailer though.
Well, like I said, it's how cool can you reload your gun in slow motion? The trailer. But again,
I think it's pretty much, here's who's in our movie.
Yeah, I mean,
it's beautiful. Come see it.
Yeah, I mean, it's Idris Elba and
say it
Matthew
open night.
McConaughey, and one of the characters' name is Jake, and so I'm always in because that's my name.
It must be nice having a name where you can find it in movie trailers.
Yes, it's like that and Chinatown,
Yeah. Or the 2 Jakes.
the two
there you go.
or Big Jake with John Wayne.
Yeah.
I bought that solely because of the title.
In the movie Ruthless People, Sam Stone is played by Danny DeVito.
Yeah,
That's what I'm played by the Penguin.
yeah, you got a full name person.
So you had mentioned. Okay, so what's your comics entry then, Conley? For the geeking out question.
Oh, well, that was actually the Kindred is the graphic novel that I'm reading. I can tell you some other series that I'm reading that I'm really digging right now.
Sure. Yeah, by all means.
I've been reading the Kiss reboot by Amy Chu.
Yes, I have
Loving that
I have
book.
a Kiss podcast, and I've done every single studio album, and I only have 2 left.
We suffered through the 80s.
It I love Kiss forever and ever, but it has drained me, and it's nobody's fault but mine. It's my stupid fault. But I was I'm only gonna do the makeup era. That's the only era I listen to. And blah blah blah. And I was no, I got to do every album. And then halfway through the 80s, I was what am I doing?
Why did I do this to myself?
Animalize. It's the worst cover ever.
So what's your favorite Kiss album? And who's your favorite member of Kiss?
Oh,
Sorry,
man.
we're just jumping all over everything.
It's called Geek Out.
Yeah.
Yeah. We
You know what? I don't know that I have a favorite Kiss album. I'm definitely more of a Beatles person if we're getting into
We have a Beatles podcast too.
I know, I saw that.
Oh yes.
If I ever want to debate the merits of the German covers of the early years, I know who I can go to.
Yes. Yes, we did sing a little bit of Schliebdik.
Yeah, and Komm gib mir deine Hand.
Yeah.
That's the best one.
So, okay, all right. Well, the favorite member of Kiss question still stands, but now you have opened the Ark of the Covenant.
Yeah, now
with
it's
the Beatles.
yeah. We don't apologize anymore.
Pandora's
Now we're
box
jumping everywhere.
of classic rock.
Yes.
Don't look at it, Marion.
Yeah.
So, yeah, who's your favorite member of Kiss?
You know what? I have to go classic and say Gene.
Gene's he's definitely classic.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Dr. Love, sure, okay. And all right, this episode comes out less than a week after the 50th anniversary of Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, which doesn't mean
My favorite Beatles album, by the way.
Is it?
It is.
What's your favorite? What is it about Sgt. Pepper's that does it above? Because Jake's a Revolver guy, and I'm a Hard Day's Night guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Both great records.
Absolutely. I think with everyone kind of brushes past a Hard Day's Night. Everyone's just Beatles don't start until Rubber Soul.
Well, I think most people also when you say
come on.
When most people say Hard Day's Night, I think they think movie first, of course, because that was the seminal
breakout.
Yeah.
Life-changing.
Right.
But which is fine. But for me, first off, it's their first studio album without any covers at all. Unfortunately, dear old Richard Starkey doesn't get a single track to sing.
Poor old Ringo.
Yeah, he's got a sizable role in the film, though. He makes up for it.
Yeah.
But the
They probably figured he had enough. You know?
It's
Just
also
wanted a little peace and quiet.
It's also one of the first major albums released with pop albums released with less than 14 tracks. But we mentioned that all in that episode. Anywho, the what I love is the first side is like mop top Beatlemania, I Want to Hold Your Hand era Beatles, and then you flip it over. Side 2 is like all these like kind of darker, like if side 1's about falling in love, side 2 is about falling out. And I always love that.
It's that weird slide into like the blues and kind of that murky period. Yeah.
Yeah, and it kind of, whenever I listen to side 2 of A Hard Day's Night, it makes me think I'm like in some smoky nightclub in like 1964 London. It's a time capsule album.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think I feel similarly about Sgt. Pepper.
Mm-hmm.
But really for me, the reason I like it so much is because just the power that it had and the way it spun off basically all of these passionate, not just musicians, but different styles of music.
Mm-hmm.
I am assuming, have y'all been to see Paul McCartney live at any point?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Me too. But I like the story that he tells in concert where he usually plays, his Jimi Hendrix tune,
Mm-hmm.
and talks about how, Jimmy was so just enthralled by Sgt. Pepper that, they heard it on a Friday, and then the next day they were playing it at a gig, and that's the kind of thing that I really love about it, is just that it inspired, not only Jimmy, but it inspired the Beach Boys with Pet Sounds and just so many different albums that, we wouldn't even have today if it wasn't for what they were able to do with Sgt. Pepper.
Yeah, it changes. It's a game changer of an album.
Yeah, and it's one of those ones where like, it's it's not. I don't think it hasn't been like, I don't think it's lost on people too, because like it's so much fun to listen to that album still today, where we've reaped all the benefits of that album. You know what I mean? Like I think it is lost on some people today, unfortunately. Like, which is funny because like Sam and I always talk about this. We've talked about it on the podcast too. Like a lot of people come up to it, not a lot. It's not like we have like hordes of people going, "What? Why are the Beatles important?" But I when I was
a sizable amount
when I was in college and other things, people knew I was this Beatles, like huge Beatles nerd, and they'd be like, "Why are the Beatles important?" And not like violently, but they were curious, like really, why do the Beatles still matter or whatever. And sometimes you have to remind them, like you listen to like a song like "Can't Buy Me Love," and you're like, nobody started with the chorus. You know what I mean? Like everyone starts verse, chorus, but here's a band that's like, no, we're gonna start with the chorus first. Or
8 days a week with the fade in.
Yeah, or we're gonna tell "She Loves You." We're gonna tell you a song where we're talking to you. It's not about the singer. The singer's telling you, the listener.
Right. And it's not she loves him.
Yeah,
it's she loves you.
Exactly. And like little things like that. And Sgt. Pepper is like the eternal spring fountain where you could always pull things from that. And just how insane it is.
Using the studio as an instrument.
Yeah, and that's why, I mean, my favorite Beatles thing, the thing I love most about the Beatles that, transfers over to bands like Queen is, like we always say, like using the studio as an instrument or another member of the band. Like they are not content with, like the Beatles, technology never caught up with the Beatles. Like the Beatles were so far ahead of that. And which probably made their life kind of a living hell, because they're like, we play this backwards, or we not, cut this and do this, and why can't we do everything at once?
There's a reason why the Sgt. Pepper sessions lasted so long.
Yeah, and my favorite Paul McCartney story, and I can't find it anywhere on DVD. I saw it like on VH1 or something years ago, and it's probably really easy to find on eBay now. But it's like the making of Sgt. Pepper, and Paul McCartney tells this story where he's in the studio. They all have their mustaches. They've all grown facial hair, which every band does when they get serious now, which is hilarious. Like the Killers.
Either that or you're homebrewing.
Yeah, yeah. And so he said, he's in the studio smoking a cigarette, and they're editing together Sgt. Pepper, and he's reading the newspaper. And on the newspaper, one of the front things in the UK is Beatles washed up ? Because they hadn't released anything in months. And back then, if you don't release anything like every couple months, like a new single or a new EP or a new album, you're run over by the next band. And so Paul McCartney says he's reading that, and he said he just slapped his hands together and was like, just you wait, because he knew what was coming, with an album like Sgt. Pepper. And that is the album I own the most times, because I own it on...
You're going to buy 50th anniversary?
Hell yeah. The problem is I don't know which version I'm going to get, because if you go on their website, You can get just the CD. You can get the CD with the vinyl. You get the CD with the vinyl and a shirt. You can get like the ultimate CD collection with the vinyl,
outtakes,
with the outtakes and the studio notes. And because I have it on,
You're gonna get the one where they like mail you a vial of George Martin's tears, and
Yes,
it'll be
yeah.
like the extra special edition.
Yes, if you put the and it's just Paul is dead. If you play it backwards, and you put
Find out the truth.
Yes, you find the
Right.
truth. Where just you open it up and it says no, and you're like, oh, okay, of course he's not dead. But no, but I think I own it on cassette, which is the first time I ever bought it was on cassette.
Yeah.
In like
Nice.
1995, and I own it like on mono and stereo, like on CD. I own like the first version that came out on CD, and then I own my grandfather's vinyl of it. I don't own it on 8-track. But and I own it
The
digitally.
missing piece.
I know, but at the same time, I'm like, my friends are like, Jake, you own it just once. You only need it once. And it's like, yeah, I know,
The
but
anthology tracks.
yeah,
But what if I have an 8-track player
Yeah.
nearby? I
Yeah.
need it.
any vehicle I get in, I can play it at any moment's notice. Sorry, Jake, we only have an 8-track. No, I got you.
You've all got that with a pink copy of Led Zeppelin 4.
Yeah, Led Zeppelin 4, exactly.
There you go.
But it's like Sgt. Pepper's not one of those like, there's other bands where you could be like, oh, my favorite album is like this by them. And you're like, oh, of course it is. But like Sgt. Pepper is one of those ones where that's still just as important because even though the Beatles didn't really follow through with the concept, like Lennon always jokes like it worked as a concept album because we said it was a concept album. And it's
Right.
and it's
They
only
just pretty
really
much put
like 3 tracks, really 3-4 tracks. And I don't know if it was like Jeff Emmerich or whatever who was like, why don't you have a reprise at the end and bring it all together, But like little things that like it just or putting in. I think George Martin said one of his proudest moments as a producer was going into from Good Morning to the reprise is all the animal noises and the chicken. There's a chicken that like chirps,
Clucks.
Right.
clucks, and it turns into the guitar lick intro of the reprise. And it's something so little that like you don't even notice it. But if you go back and listen to it, you hear that moment where the animal turns into the guitar that goes into the next track.
Though his biggest regret in his production career was taking Penny Lane and Strawberry Fields Forever off.
Well, if you would have had those 2 songs on that album, the world would have collapsed. Like it would have cracked
like
in
a
half.
Stephen King book.
Yeah, because people would have been like, no more music.
Well, we had a great
Yeah.
run.
Could you imagine if those 2 songs were on that album, though? I mean, like, that's
They were supposed to be the
insane.
centerpiece instead of.
That's why I always like listening to the Beach Boys account of the first time that they heard Sgt. Pepper, just because I feel like we all had that feeling. It's just, sitting there on the bus with your mouth hanging open. I can't believe that people actually did this.
Yeah. I mean, it's.
You're like, God damn it.
So okay, it's your favorite album. What, certainly by the Beatles. What's the standout track for you?
I think that's one of those things that has changed every now and again. Because when you first listen to it, at least for me, it was just kind of, you sang along with what you knew, and then you were obsessively just listening to what you didn't know. So, you come to it and you think, Sgt. Pepper is great, with a little help from my friends, but then you get deeper in, and I think at this point now, A Day in the Life is probably my favorite, just because it has so many transitions and so many moods, and there's so many, I think, musical styles just sort of wrapped up in it.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard the anthology cut of A Day in the Life?
I have, but not in a long
The
time.
outtake that Paul McCartney does is my favorite thing, where like he goes and he's woke up and he's like doing the piano part, and then at the end he hits like a wrong note and messes up, and his voice is being reverbed, so he's like, and he goes shit, and it goes shit, as like it's like, and then you have George Martin. There's no strings, and George Martin's going 1 1 1 1 2 2, counting in the the orchestra crash. And it's creepy. It's like really, it's like creepy as shit. But
doomsday
Honestly,
clock.
sometimes listening to the outtakes it can be more fun than the songs.
oh yeah, they're hilarious.
There's one that I think it was a couple of years ago they finally put out, but it was like Christmas message to their fans in 1964. So they stitched that together with just some various outtakes from the recording of different albums. And it's hysterical. I mean, sometimes I'll just put that on and I'll be in my car just dying laughing. I'm sure other drivers think I'm insane.
Well, my favorite one there's 2 that I can think of right off the top of my head. besides the day in the life is one. I don't remember which one it's on, but Paul breaks a glass when they're tuning up.
That was during You've Got to Hide Your Love Away.
Okay, yeah, it is. It's right because they screw the intro up. It's like terrible.
Yeah.
And Lennon's like, stop it. And then Paul breaks a glass, and John gets on the mic and he goes, Paul's broken a glass, Paul's broken a glass. He has, and then someone else says, now we're rolling, for the benefit of Mr. Kite, and you hear Lennon go, being for the benefit of Mr. Kite. Like he fixes, he like corrects him before they go into it. But the other one also is on Anthology 3. I think it's After I've Got a Feeling, which is like almost better than the version that's on Abbey Road.
The Let It Be version, or Let It Be Naked version, is the best version of I've Got a Feeling.
Yeah.
The album version isn't that great.
The anthology version is like rip roaring, that they're going fucking nuts. But at the end, I think it's the end of that one where Lennon goes, the news just came in, Yoko's divorce is final. Like, so like they catch all these different little moments. And then I'm just thinking of all the different things, like McCartney before they do is it Your Mother Should Know?
Off of Magical Mysteries?
I think it is. And he goes, okay, he's like, we're going to try this one real good. Like he does like an American accent. And then he goes, this time we'll film it with Siggy in mouth. And he plays the whole thing with a cigarette hanging out of his mouth. And they do like a military snare version of it with Ringo, which is really cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, those anthologies are cool. Those anthologies was really what got me into them in 1995, because my grandfather bought me the Anthology 1 because he was he was at the airport when the Beatles landed. He was like
64.
Yeah, he was had been in the army for like 5 years at that point. So he was like a young officer, and he heard all these girls and people running and screaming. He thought a bomb threat had come in, and so he was like in like military mode, and he found out that no, it was these 4 kids basically like his age that
it's these mop tops.
Yeah, these Brits are invading. He's like, oh shit.
Is this the same grandfather that co-wrote that book with Tom Clancy?
It is, yeah. And so
that man had an interesting life.
He's had an interesting life, to say the least. But he found out there was like this band called the Beatles, and then he's been a fan ever since. So yeah, that was huge, those anthologies, because you get to hear like all these, just them. To them, they probably hate it because they're like, we're fucking up. Like, why do you want to hear
right.
this? But to us, it's freaking hilarious.
Okay, all right. Now, apart from the Beatles, Conley, what non-comic thing are you geeking? Because I know you were just talking about like Kiss, and we just kind of went on this.
Yeah, sorry. If you mentioned the Beatles, we're like, stop everything.
Wait, record scratch.
Yeah. But yes, what other comic series and non-comic things are you currently geeking out over?
I'll give you a non-comic one because I think this is strange but interesting, and maybe just to me. You've heard of the ice sport of curling, yes?
Oh, of course.
Yes.
So that was one of the things that I took up recently. A friend of mine got a targeted Facebook ad for a Learn to Curl class, very close to where we are. And so she texted me. Usually, if we have kind of free tickets or something fun crops up, we'll text each other. And so she sends me a message and says, hey, I got a targeted ad for a Learn to Curl class. Do you want to learn how to curl? Yes, I do. So that has been something new that I recently got into. They're on pause for the summer, but there are curling leagues in the South. Shocking me. I never knew.
What? I did not.
Yeah.
I missed that when I was in Charlotte over the weekend.
Hey, man.
I was not looking.
They've got a place in North Charlotte. So I think anytime between maybe September and April.
What is it about curling that, what helps you find your center within the Canadian or Scandinavian ice, whoever fucking thought of it, sport?
Some northern version.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of the sports that I have played in past have been either hard contact sports or things where you're really exerting yourself. So curling is a very gentle sport, can be, but it's very social. So, that's kind of nice. Like I said, I'm a runner, and so usually if I'm going to a race or if I'm, doing any running event, you're basically sweating for 2 hours and hoping you get tacos at the end. Curling is not that way at all.
It's like polar bowling.
Yeah, kind of similar. It's
Yeah, I said that. I made that analogy and looked at Jake like I'm doing this.
Yeah, and I'm envisioning.
I can't help you, buddy.
Polar bears just bowling.
Yeah.
Maybe the Coca-Cola bears.
Yeah,
I
they're
don't
sitting there
know,
drinking
but
Cokes
whatever it
and
is.
bowling.
I was asking. I think I was asking Latour. What is it with all the downtown pedal bars in Charlotte? And they're always full. They're always full of people.
I don't understand those either. I was hoping y'all could explain it to me.
You guys have some. There's like an arcade craze going on. I'm seeing a lot of places with like pinball and
shit.
arcade cabinets too, though.
Oh yeah, they just built well, not recently, but within the last few years, there's an entire bar dedicated to kind of quote old school games, so like 80s and 90s consoles and.
Was it a Bari?
Yeah.
Because I was at a Bari. And
yeah, it was a Bari.
with the donut
Shout
place
out
right
to a
next.
Bari. They have
Nice.
ET painted on the side of their building.
They do.
Oh, shit.
It's the one movie that makes Jake cry every time.
Oh, I get dehydrated when I watch that movie.
Oh my god, I love that movie.
It's pretty ridiculous. I grew up watching it when I was a little kid, but I
Yeah.
think like most people do. But I used to work at a Blockbuster like on and off for 6 years through like high school and college, and I was like they give you like 10 rentals a week that you can use for free, and so it got to a point where I had watched everything I wanted to, and so that I'd pick like actors and directors and just rent their entire catalog. And just, that's how I've seen, like, pretty much every Keanu Reeves movie and Kurt Russell movie and everything else.
Even Hardball?
Yeah, I own Hardball, son. That's an intense movie. But,
A Walk in the Clouds?
I don't own that, but I've seen it. She's like
He
the
solved
heir
the
to-
case, at least.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, so I was like, oh, man, E.T., I haven't seen that movie in years. And so I went home, and thank God I was watching it in the basement with no one else around, because I hadn't watched it since I was, like, 6. And like Spielberg is the king of movie magic. Like that guy, like whatever movie magic is, he has it. Like, he's not the only one, but he's and maybe it's just because we grew up watching his movies or something. And so I'm watching E.T. and like I'm seeing and hearing a lot of these images and sounds that I haven't heard at that time for like 20 years.
Yeah.
And it like totally was a time machine. And like it would show like the image of him throwing the ball into the shack and then E.T. throwing the ball back out, and the way like the it's like backlit in the farm or whatever, and like the horizon. I hadn't thought about that in 20 years, and I was like,
Yeah.
I was like, what the fuck? And so I'm watching it like just like the weirdest movie like I'd ever, just experience I'd had. And then, by the end, I was just, and it wasn't even like during sad parts. I was just crying randomly throughout the movie because it was like this totally weird, like emotional, like experience watching that movie. And it's, I don't know, like I said, it's just this like movie magic thing. And the time travel for that 2 hours was totally real because I really felt like a 6-year-old kid again by the end of it. It was, and I looked like a snotty mess. It was so bad. But
I think I went through a phase where I watched that movie almost every day. I had the VHS and I wore that thing out.
Oh, yeah. I mean, well, the funny thing is, like a year later, they re-released it in theaters for like a day. And me and one of my friend TJ, they also re-released The Exorcist for a day. And so I was like, well, let's go see The Exorcist and chase it with E.T. because
There you go.
because I'm not gonna go see The Exorcist and leave during the nighttime because that still freaks me out. And by the way, if you haven't, I don't know if you've ever read the book, but I audiobooked that recently, and it's one of the best books I've ever read in my entire life.
Well, it's because the audiobooks.
William Peter Blatty.
Yeah, narrates.
He narrates the whole thing, and he does all the voices, and it's astounding. Like even watching the movie, it doesn't matter. Like it doesn't. You're not like, oh, I know what's happening next. It is like so damn freaky and amazing, and it's not like cheap thrills in the book either. It's just genuinely scary because of what's happening. Anyway, so we were like, oh, let's go see The Exorcist, and we saw that, and that was creepy as shit. We had seen it so many times before that, but watching it on the big screen, you realize how little music is in that movie. Like,
right.
just the
Because
piano.
they have the main theme and what else?
I mean, there's like little moments here and there, but a lot of it is like
Just tubular bells.
Yes.
Tubular bells. Right?
yeah, stuff you'll hear like that they're listening to or whatever. And then like the little like the piano score, like very kind of reminiscent of the Carpenter, Halloween theme,
Right.
6 years before the Halloween thing. And I was like, oh my God, that's so creepy because, you don't think about how silent that movie is. in terms of music. So then we go see E.T. And the funny thing is, I bought Reese's Pieces
Chorus
to watch it because I was like, now it's like 40 because I'm eating Reese's when E.T.'s eating Reese's.
Amazing.
Yeah, this is the best experience ever. And so I remember, but the cool thing was, there wasn't that many people going to see it, but a mom was taking her kid, and the kid was like 6 years old and he had never seen it. And I was like, that's so wild because that was the first time I saw E.T. when I was 6. And it's funny because we could hear the mom like ugly crying throughout the entire movie, and I wondered what the kid would experience because and of course I was doing it too. Like I did that thing where like my buddy was sitting to my left, and I told him like, dude, it's gonna be awkward for you because I'm just gonna be crying through this whole movie. And I did that thing where I like turned my whole body. And I was like sitting like sideways in the chair, so he like couldn't see me, and it was just
Don't
like
look at
my
me.
shoulders are just shaking. I'm like, God, it's like E.T.
I did that during Jurassic Park, so don't feel bad.
Oh, really? Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
It's just.
It's the scene when Alan Grant finally sees the dinosaurs. That's what.
Is that the scene that does it for you in Jurassic
Yeah.
Park?
Yeah. Because the music swells and welcome.
It's John Williams, dude. He does it with fucking in E.T. The scene that makes me cry is not when he's like OD'd like white raisin E.T. at the bottom when they find him. That's creepy. It's not even when he comes back to life with the flower or the cat, whatever it is, and Elliot's like he's alive. And it's not even the end. The end is of course beautiful in the forest and stuff. But for me, it's a similar thing with the swell of the music. It's when the kids are on the bikes, and they're trying to escape, and the great thing that Steven Spielberg did, and I'm not shitting on George Lucas because I love George Lucas, but he could learn from his buddy. He released the original version and the director's cut version. He has both versions. So if you want to see walkie-talkies instead of shotguns, you can do that. For whatever reason.
You don't have to buy a Laserdisc.
Yeah, exactly. And but yeah, it's funny because Chris, who's not here right now, he's like the biggest Laserdisc person. He owns it on Laserdisc somewhere, I know.
Yeah, which is the only way you can see the Harrison Ford deleted scene.
That's right. Yeah, he's got that.
Right.
He's the Laserdisc fiend.
A laser dick, as he
refers to himself. But no, it's the scene where like they're on the bike and they're trying to run away and they think they're screwed, and then right as they take off, the music swells at the same time, and Elliot's like E.T. and like it's just like the most like beautiful. Like I'm gonna watch the movie tonight, man. I haven't watched that. I actually haven't watched it probably since I saw it.
Do you have
in
a
the
roll of
theaters.
toilet paper ready?
I'm just gonna let it just nasty, ugly. I remember I looked at myself afterwards because I was wearing a hoodie, and it was just the sleeves were all like wet because I was like going. Ugh. It was like this cathartic, wonderful experience. Yeah, it was like because I was by myself. I didn't care. I was just like, let it go.
The only movie that makes me cry like a crazy person is Field of Dreams, which is my favorite.
Oh
film.
man.
Yeah,
like
that'll do it.
there's a couple moments in Field of Dreams where I'm just like. I like kind of look around my apartment like nobody else is here. Good.
Yeah, I'm like looking at the bottom of your window like I see
so
you.
Beautiful.
It is.
Yeah. You can't go back. No, it's all right. It's all right. No, it's not.
Well, I've realized like within the past like 5 or 6 years, I get emotional at everything now.
You also fall asleep during movies now.
I do. I've become like I've hit 30, so like I'm becoming my father because I never fall asleep in movies, and I fell asleep in 2 movies last year.
Yeah, Jason Bourne and Star Trek Beyond.
Yes. the Star Trek Beyond was I think I was jet lagged a little bit, so I'll give it that.
Were we back from San Diego?
I think that was we're back from San Diego. Yeah. Jason Bourne, sorry, I love you, Matt Damon, but I was just bored out of my fucking mind. I woke up in the 3rd act. I was like, thank God.
Oh, he's not dead.
yeah. But no, but like I get like emotional during like trailers. And like during the
that's happened to me too.
During the
I don't know what it is.
during the goofiest stuff too. Like I'm trying to think of something off the top of my head. Oh, I know one. This is like make or break the conversation. This is like weird. But when they had the trailer for
Must Love Dogs.
No, I own Must Love Dogs though. This is Diane Keaton phase, but
Diane Keaton.
Diane no, what's her face? Diane Lane.
That's a
Diane
different
Lane.
phase.
Yeah, Diane Lane. Diane Keaton hasn't happened. I'm saving that one.
Something's got to give.
Yeah, something's got to
Yeah,
give.
just queue up all the Nancy Meyers movies and go.
Yeah.
Do you have Something's Got to Give? It's got Keanu. It's got your boy Keanu.
I don't actually. I don't have. And that's got Nicholson too, right?
Yeah.
Shit.
It does.
That's got everybody. If only John
Next
Williams.
in the queue.
Yeah, if only John Williams did the score for that one. But no, it was during the Legend of Tarzan trailer.
The one with the Sarsgaard?
I dug that movie, man. I know like people didn't like it that much. I thought it was like a lot of fun. Like it.
Was it the abs?
No, it was. It was. Well, I mean, he's a good-looking man, you know. if you've ever seen True Blood, you see a lot of Skarsgård. Let's put it that way. And no, it's a scene when in the trailer, and it actually pays off really well in the movie, where like Christoph Waltz is like, "Jane, nobody's coming for you, Jane," and then you hear Tarzan like yell in the background. And I got emotional, like just during the trailer, because I was like, "Oh, it's the famous yell, and it's the Tarzan's been around since forever, and blah blah blah." And by that logic, the trailer had already been over at that point. But that's one off the top of my head.
At that point, you're thinking about the last time you went on the Great Movie ride.
Oh, that's my favorite ride of all time.
Didn't you get choked up describing Man of Steel to somebody?
Yeah, I used to work. Oh, yeah, this is the How Jake Cries hour.
Yeah, we're not actually talking about we're not actually promoting the Bitch Planet triple feature.
Yeah.
This is an intervention.
We're not even
Hey,
recording.
I'm a movie buff. I love talking about movies.
So yeah, stop me at any moment because
you can go into more into what makes you cry, Conley, and what's your favorite as well.
But the thing, I'm like a super duper Superman fan, and to Zack Snyder's credit, the first Man of Steel trailer that played before Dark Knight Rises kind of like reawoke me as like a born again Superman fan. I hadn't read him for years. I kind of fell into that trap of I thought he was boring, and then I saw that.
Yeah, it was kind of all Batman all the time.
Yeah,
so.
I mean it was, and so in college I wasn't reading comics as much anymore, and I saw that first trailer for the Man of Steel. I think it was the Jonathan Kent voiceover, which I like better than the Jor-El voiceover because they had the two trailers with the different voices, and it's just the basically, how hope, blah, 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 blah. And then, that shot of him flying and breaking the speed of sound and stuff. And I was like, oh, shit, I haven't given Superman a chance in a long time. So I got into Superman hardcore again, and I started working at a comic shop for a couple of years. And I don't remember how I got started, but someone, would come in and they'd be like, Superman's boring. And I'd be like, oh, well, let me give you a couple ideas. And, if you don't like Superman, that's fine. But, this is potentially could open your mind to why I think Superman is such a great character. And I was telling someone about my favorite scene in Man of Steel, and I know like that movie gets, raked over the coals here and there, and it's not. There has yet, in my opinion, been like the Dark Knight of Superman movies in terms of like the de facto what people can be like. This is the best Superman movie. And I love the Christopher Reeve one for the most part, but the third act kind of loses me. And
also Luthor.
Yeah.
Luthor.
I think there's portions of each that are good, but
you can
as far
kind of
as
you can supercut like kind of maybe the best. But in Man of Steel, I think my favorite, live action Superman moment is in that movie where the World Engine is beating down Metropolis, and on the other side of the world, there's the other one that has to be destroyed first before you can go back and save the people of Metropolis. And so Superman goes down, and he's like trying to take it out, and he keeps getting like grabbed by like the Dr. Octopus arms and like coughing and thrown all over the place. And at the last second, the one grabs him and throws him at the bottom of the beatdown, like he's just being beat down. And it intercuts really kind of beautifully with that shot of Perry White. And at the time, I remember everyone was saying it was female. It was like Jane Olsen or whatever. Remember, everyone said that, but they never actually said it anywhere in the movie, but people just believed it, that it was like they had gender swapped Jimmy Olsen.
They had to save Olsen for the sequel where
so he gets shot in the head because he's a CIA informant, which is like, I don't even know.
And then Zack Snyder
important role.
Yeah, Zack Snyder's like, we wanted to do something fun with the character, which means
Expendable Patsy.
Yeah, I was like, Jesus Christ. That's when I thought Superman was going to save the day. Like, he saves Jimmy, and I'm like, yes, all is right in the world, but of course that doesn't happen. Anyway, so...
Well, and
no, go ahead.
Not to derail you from your Superman story,
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I feel like, at least from a storytelling standpoint, that's one of the reasons why I love Batman. Batman, as a child, is my favorite superhero, but I really am struck by this idea that, superheroes and that the whole really genre and even the medium of comics, like, it doesn't have to be dark, gritty all the time. Like,
exactly, yeah.
Make sure that people are having a little bit of fun and, like, something to live for. Otherwise, what's the point?
Yeah, I mean, like, and dark and gritty works for characters that are dark and gritty.
Sure.
Dark and gritty doesn't, like when The Amazing Spider-Man came out, Spider-Man's not supposed to be dark and gritty. Like, he comes from
He can have dark and gritty stories, but as a character.
Yeah.
And he comes from, like, tragedy. Like, that's kind of his thing, like, Spider-Man's dealing with tragedy and death constantly, but he's not, when he puts that mask on, he's Spider-Man. He's not Peter Parker,
It's an escape.
Yeah. Anyway, so that scene of Man of Steel is getting beat down, and he's just, like, lying there and getting his ass kicked, and it cuts to that shot of... not Jane Olsen trapped in like the rubble.
Still be an Olsen.
She still could be. I don't actually remember what her name is in the movie, but she's trapped in the rubble, and Perry and the other guy, like the creepo guy, kind of like hits on the interns. Remember that weird guy? Like I don't remember what his
guy
deal
from
that dude.
yeah, Michael Kelly from House
in
of
the end, he's
Cards.
like, "I got 2 tickets to the Metropolis baseball team," and she's like, "No, get out of here! Metropolis is gone." And so anyway, he's like, he has this like conscious crisis of faith. He's like, I'll go save them, even though I'm probably going to die, which is kind of a nice little moment. And this is why you hire Lawrence Fishburne. He does that moment where he's like trying to pull her, and he realizes he can't, and so he realizes, well, at least we can have this one final like human interaction before we get crushed to death. And he grabs her hand, and they kind of have this like great little look, like we know it's the end. And Superman on the other side of the world is kind of like, the great thing about him is we know as an audience that he can survive pretty much anything. Like he's invincible because we know we've read him for 78 years. But he doesn't know that. And so the idea of him, like he's always flying into what potentially could kill him. He doesn't, he thinks this could be the one thing that can finally kill me. And so, and he's pretty new at this point. So he does that great thing, which is a cool callback to the Max Fleischer animated stuff, which is my favorite Superman stuff ever, where he's punching
That's the best one. Yes,
where he's
correct answer.
He's punching the laser, he's literally punching a laser. And so I'm like, oh my God, this is like that scene. And so I don't go into this much detail with the guy because he would have just left. But I'm telling the guy, like, this is why I love Superman. And so he like takes off and he flies into the laser, like, and screams and like just flies right into it. And like I'm telling him this, and I get choked up as I'm telling it, and I'm like, my only out is to make this really weird noise. So I'm like, and then he flies up to the, and I kind of just like end the conversation. I'm like, look, if you want to buy Superman for all seasons, here it is. If not, don't worry about it.
Everything's cool.
Yeah, but it's one of those things where like I think there are plenty of moments, like you said, in Superman live action, film related things where they get it right. I know Sam's favorite Superman movie is Superman Returns. And I have some humongous problems with that movie, like I have humongous problems with Man of Steel. But there's some like legitimately
I love Superman.
amazing moments in Superman Returns. You know?
It's his biggest obstacle is a broken heart. And I love it.
But that works for like
And they turn up the camp in that movie. Just there's some good moments there.
Whenever I explain that, I'm like, Superman's biggest obstacle in that film is a broken heart. Most people are like, you realize how lame you just made that sound, right?
Well, again, that works for like. That works for like a little bit of it, but when that's like the whole thing, Brandon
supposed to get Jude Law as General Zod. I'm just putting that out there.
Yeah. And Brandon Routh never got his full chance to shine as Superman because it did that annoying thing where it's like, oh, it's kind of related to the Donnerverse, but it never gives us like a full answer, and the Prometheus syndrome. But yeah.
Well, and I feel like him in that movie, it was kind of, well, just stand over here and have your granite jaw, and we'll tell you if we need you to do anything else. And I think he could have done some interesting things.
I would have liked to have seen more Brandon Routh soups.
Oh, me. Oh, God, yes. But the so you had alluded being a bit of a cinephile, Conley. What would you say is some of your favorite films, and or if you want to share notes with Jake and I, what sorts of films make you cry in addition to Jurassic Park?
Let's see. Some of my favorite films, I'm really into noir and sort of that like mid-40s, early 50s, like
Humphrey Bogart.
Yeah, well, not even Humphrey Bogart, just kind of getting into a lot of the Billy Wilder, kind of that middle period before he decided he was going to do funny stuff again. You've seen Sunset Boulevard?
I have. William Holden, absolutely.
That is one of my favorites. Just kind of the layers of different Hollywood eras and the personalities that they kind of dug out just to kind of cameo in that film. And then just as well as the actual story. That's one of my favorites. Another Billy Wilder that I love is Some Like It Hot with Marilyn Monroe.
Yeah. That's with what's that final line? Nobody's perfect?
Yep. Well, nobody's perfect.
So forward thinking for its time.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of those that really holds up well. I think some of the beach party movies of the 50s and 60s have not aged well at all, but that one definitely holds its own.
What? So would you? what would you call, Jake's favorite film, I guess, I suppose is Rocky, but,
Yes.
and mine is Field of Dreams. If you had to, I know this can be an esoteric, ever-changing question like favorite Beatles song, but if you had to narrow it down to one, what would it be?
Oh, man. Which limb do I like the most? Let me think. Actually, I'm curious why you like Field of Dreams so much beyond the fact that it's a great movie.
Well,
Because Sam is the biggest Kevin Costner fan that ever existed.
I saw 3 Days to Kill earlier today with him and Haley Steinfeld. And Anyway,
Pa Kent
yeah, with this random ass like
dream sequence. And,
where he just builds a pile of rocks and talks about like how horses drown, and then he went and had cake.
Yeah.
And he's got a weird accent that entire time that he doesn't have in Man of Steel. Regardless, so let's talk about Field of Dreams. So in Field of Dreams, first off, I think I'm a big fan of like magical realism. I really like a lot of Latin American literature, Borges, Garcia Marquez, all that stuff. And I think Field of Dreams is one of the most like clearest examples of that in American cinema.
Mm-hmm.
You get that juxtaposed with Jake's always like it doesn't have to be. It's not necessarily a baseball film. For me, there is no greater American. I mean, it's the American pastime. If you're going to do a deep dive into Americana, you do it to baseball, and you do it in Iowa.
Yeah, it's that, The Natural, and A League of Their Own. I think those are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Costner's got the trilogy. He's got Bull Durham.
Oh yeah, Bull Durham. Oh my god, I forgot about that movie.
I'll let Sam jump back into it, but my thing quick about Bull Durham is I didn't play baseball for that long. I played up through high school and travel leagues or whatever, not for a school. I wasn't that good, but Bull Durham captures what it's like to be in a dugout better than any movie I've ever seen. Of just that bro-y camaraderie of joking around in a dugout and being teammates and being able to yell at each other for a mistake, and then the next second you're embracing because you made this great play or you're moving on to the next thing or whatever. But yeah, I think baseball for me, Field of Dreams is baseball, right? But for me, Field of Dreams is baseball is the perfect sport to use for that movie.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It's it's about fathers and sons and everything, and there's a sense of wistful and it's something I've thought about, with the start of this baseball season and this current political climate. There's that one line that James Earl Jones has at, the big baseball speech where he's just baseball reminds us of everything that was great, and it can be again. And, baseball marks the time. While America's erased steamrolled and erased like a blackboard, baseball is the one constant. And I was just... and of course, there's two moments that really choke me up. There's Burt Lancaster essentially giving up heaven to rescue Kevin Costner's daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And even in that moment, he's like, no, it's all right. It's okay, Yeah, he got to do what he wanted. I'm starting to choke up just talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
And the second part, as I clear my throat, let me clear my throat. The second part is, it's the end, where it's when he finally plays catch with his dad at the end of the film. And let me just reiterate, this episode comes out right after Father's Day. Let me underscore, or no, it comes out on the 7th, so it comes out the Wednesday before Father's Day. Let me underscore.
Near Father's Day.
Yeah. I get along fine with my father. So, in case any listener is I wonder if Sam everything's cool on the home front. But when he catches, that's the best bit of Kevin Costner acting. When he catches that first baseball from his father, and all those years of pain and regret just melt away in a single catch. Mm-hmm. I love that.
Yeah, and the fact that the guy who plays his dad had just lost his dad 2 weeks before filming that, and so he was talking about how emotional that scene was. Because I've always referenced playing catch with my dad. It was it sounds so cheesy, but it was going to church. It was the most fun, important thing of all time. And so,
it's a quintessential thing.
Yeah, and so that my dad and I haven't played catch in fucking 15 years or whatever. My dad, I said it before. My dad has like old football injuries. So you can barely his hand cramps up, so you can barely throw a baseball. And like I said, I probably would throw it right into the ground. Who knows? But yeah, that idea of playing catch and how great that is, and I agree with Sam on all counts for Field of Dreams, and like that final shot of just zooming out and all the cars pulling up, is pretty damn great.
Yeah,
and the score, James Horner's
that final shot.
Yeah. And I mean, for me though, like The Natural is my favorite because that's like the magical realism as well. One, because I remember someone always said that that's just the story of King Arthur, which is interesting. But
and Wonder Boy is his Excalibur.
Is Excalibur, and even though it breaks, but then he's got the Savoy Special. The first time I ever saw a clip of The Natural was I was at Camden Yards, Orioles Park at Camden Yards, and they had like they needed to have like a let's jack the crowd up moment, so they shut off all the lights and they showed the scene where he hits the home run in a baseball stadium while watching it in a baseball stadium, and that was like the coolest thing in the world. I was like, oh, I've never seen The Natural. I was like 9. And
see, I think that's the perfect place to see it.
Yeah.
I think the first time I saw it was in a middle school classroom on one of those. You remember the TVs on the rolling carts?
Oh yeah, that was the best.
It was one of those
in.
things.
Yeah,
because you knew they were going to bring in a Laserdisc player.
They knew you weren't doing shit the rest of the period.
Here we go.
That's well. No, did you why did you guys watch The Natural? Was it for like a school thing, or they just like substitute teacher? Here's The Natural.
Honestly, I think it was the end of the year, so it was pretty much like, well, don't want to do anything. Here we go.
Have you
Robert Redford?
Have you ever read the book?
I haven't.
It's super dark. Like, it's a very different ending too. I won't spoil it in case you ever want to read it down the line, but it's because he's kind of based on the Shoeless Joe in a way, kind of like how
right.
The Say It Ain't So. The whole thing with did Shoeless Joe cheat or whatever, because the Field of Dreams is based off the short story and the book. Shoeless Joe comes to Iowa, and then just Shoeless Joe, which again, I think W.P. Kinsella, one of the all-time great baseball writers, he would take like really weird scenarios and turn them into these like amazing stories, usually centering around baseball.
Usually short stories.
Yeah, one of my favorites is. A pitcher or coach dies. I might be getting this wrong, but I can't remember exactly. A pitcher or a coach on the baseball team dies, and the team can still communicate with them through the bullpen phone. And so, like little things like that. And there's one where like a team has a mascot that's like a giant bird, but underneath the bird suit is an actual giant bird. Like weird little things like that, or like
I think I've heard of that one.
Yeah, and there's
I
one.
want to say we had to read an excerpt for like a creative writing class at one point.
Oh, really? It's funny.
Yeah.
He has like one story about the longest game ever played that took like years and stuff. Like just really weird, like whimsical, great stuff. And because baseball, you can do anything with baseball, and because there's no clock and it's just take your time.
Right.
But The Natural is one of those ones where the book is very, very dark, but they changed it because Robert Redford is the hero. And they
didn't change Jeremiah Johnson.
Yeah, and that's one of those ones where like the 3 hits that always are like super just goosebump emotional is where he knocks the cover off the ball, which is like the classic baseball thing. My favorite home run in that movie isn't necessarily where he breaks the lights. I mean, that's a great visual, and it's a great end to the story. But my favorite is actually when he's in the slump and he's just like going 0 for 4, he's striking out every single time he goes up to the plate because he's seduced by the quote unquote dark side with Kim Basinger, all in the dark and black and everything's this and that. Mm-hmm. And then Glenn Close comes to the game because, he's in town playing, Chicago. And there's that great moment where like, he's like, it's like 0-2. He's just like a bum, and she stands up and the light hits her hat and she looks like an angel. And he turns around and he sees like a glare. He doesn't really see who it is, but he kind of sees like a glare.
But he sees the glare.
Yeah, and it's like this, and there's the one guy in the back who's like, "Hey, sit down!" Like, what's going on? Like the old like 1930s baseball guys are like, "Sit down! What are you doing in front?" Hey, oh. And he gets back into the box and like hits the ball so hard he shatters the clock. And that's my favorite maybe moment in that movie. Aside from the moment when he finds that he has a kid, that's another great one too. But I've always heard that. Did you ever hear that theory that the home run at the end kills him, and the last shot is him in heaven, like his idea of heaven.
Yes, I have.
Yeah, I always thought that was pretty interesting. I don't believe it because I don't believe that Roy Hobbs is dead, but like I always thought that was an interesting take.
And this is kind of random, but just speaking of baseball movies and movies that make us cry, one that I love is Hook.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Home, Jack.
Yeah.
Home run, Jack.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Every single time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I loved that movie when I was younger, but then watching it as an adult, especially, between kind of Robin Williams as Pan and as, sad Peter Banning, and then with the kids and especially Jack, it tears me up every single time.
Again, like that the movie magic is so like palpable and real when they get a hold of it. It's not easy.
Oh, yeah.
Spielberg is just one of those guys where he films E.T. at the level of a kid. That whole movie is like filmed at the level of a kid, not an adult. So like you watch that movie through the eyes of a kid, which is just like little things like that. Like he gets, and
when his movies have such great detail,
Mm-hmm.
it's not just, okay, here's, the character's wardrobe and here's what they do. And it's, like you said, E.T. being on the level of a kid,
Yeah.
You've got all these interesting things in their room and the sound effects and kind of the noises that are going on around them. And for Hook, I feel like it's the same way, just kind of that Lost Boys world and, with the food fight and like Rufio.
Sure, yeah.
It's just exactly.
Yeah.
Who didn't want to be Rufio?
That's right. Yeah, oh yeah.
Bangarang. I mean, look at Skrillex.
Yes, Skrillex was very affected by Mr. Bangarang.
Yeah. That floppy-haired. Anyway, I think
He's a nice boy.
He's a nice. He's
nice. He's nice.
Yes,
Making his mom proud.
That's
Yes.
right. Yes. What's his real name? Sonny? I think it's Sonny.
Is it seriously?
I think it's Sonny. Yeah. I don't remember his
I
last
wouldn't
name.
know
It's
if you paid me, so.
Corleone. Sonny Corleone.
Yeah,
No, I think his name really is Sonny though. I think.
like Bono. Not.
Oh yeah. I was like, I thought you meant Bono from
The
U2.
other one,
Yeah. I'm like,
the other
what? He has more than just Bono. No. Yeah. Sonny. Like Sonny.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. So Conley, do you have anything? While we got you on, is there anything you'd like to plug before we sign off?
Sure. So, for anyone that is going to be at Heroes Con this year, I'm going to have a table and going to have fresh copies of Bitch Planet Triple Feature, as well as some original stuff that I'm working on. I'm also Saturday. I am going to be selling either some prints or some other sketches from one of my upcoming stories, which is a children's book loosely based on the Jack Tales. I don't know if you guys are familiar with those at all, but
As in,
it's
like,
a big
Jack
thing
and
in
the
Western
Beanstalk?
North Carolina.
Is it not Beanstalk Jack?
It is Beanstalk Jack, but there's also many others. Have you ever heard of Jack and the Varmints?
No.
Sounds like a folk band.
The silence tells me no.
No, I'm sorry. No,
Yeah.
I haven't.
So there's a lot of different stories like that, but the one that I'm working on is I'm adapting it into a children's book. So another different thing that I'm doing, and so hopefully I'll get to show that off, or at least some previews at the con.
That's cool. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
That's for those listeners at home, Heroes Con is the weekend of June 16th, which is, again, a week and a half after this thing comes out. So, yeah, it's going to be, and which is the same week that Bitch Planet Triple Feature comes out. Serendipitous.
Same week. I think it starts the very next day, so
Oh, you
right
guys,
on time.
You guys have your con start on Thursday, because I got the DC Awesome Con that same weekend, and we don't start until Friday. So
Y'all are pacing yourselves. That's what's happening.
I guess. We got David Tennant. This is a very Doctor Who-centric year for us, because we had Peter Capaldi last year, and people went like fucking bananas. And I guess the organizers were like, more Doctor Who all the time. So they got David Tennant, Billy Piper, and what's his name? John Barrowman and Catherine Tate. So it's going to
Ooh.
be like super Doctor Who-y.
It's also got Stan Lee.
Yeah, if you put those four on a panel together, that's going to be a great one.
The VIP passes to meet David Tennant sold out like the day they went on sale.
Jesus.
And those are like hundreds of dollars for those. So.
I believe it.
Damn.
Yeah. Nobody.
Straw poll. Who's your favorite Doctor?
Well,
Are either of you Whovians?
yeah.
Sam, I've full. I'll just get mine out of the way real quick. Because full disclosure, I've only seen one season of Doctor Who, and it's bad because a kid yelled, like a 7-year-old yelled at me when I worked at the comic shop once, because like he came in and Doctor Who is like huge now. Like Doctor Who toys are everywhere, sonic screwdrivers are everywhere, and this kid came up and we had little Doctor Who toys, and he goes, "Who's your favorite Doctor?" And at the time, I had never seen anything Doctor Who related, and I was like, "Oh, all I could think of was Matt Smith." Who legitimately
the one.
That's the one. That's the guy I've seen pretty much one season of at least. Was Matt
Smith's
Smith.
my favorite.
And Matt Smith's great. Like I love the hell out of it. I don't know why I stopped watching. In
terms of the classic Doctor, my favorite classic Doctor is Peter Davison, but my favorite Doctor period is Matt Smith.
Mm-hmm. And so the kid like
I
yelled
do
at
love
me
Peter Davidson
because I was like, "Oh, I don't know Matt Smith, but I never really seen any Doctor Who." And he goes, "How have you never seen Doctor Who?
How are you alive?
How are you working at a comic shop, nerd?" But no, Matt Smith, I enjoyed the hell out of.
Yeah, you've seen Superman 4: The Quest for Peace.
I have. Yeah. Yeah. Have you seen Superman 4, little kid? Have you seen the Dolph Lundgren Punisher?
There.
Yeah, there you go.
Have you read Archie Meets Predator or Archie Meets the Punisher?
Yeah. So I would say Matt Smith.
Who's your favorite?
You know what? I'm gonna have to go with for New Who, Christopher Eccleston.
Oh,
Chris would love that if he was here.
yeah,
That was his favorite, right?
Our broken hand man is a big Christopher Eccleston fan. I like Eccleston. I just felt he didn't get the best scripts.
He didn't, but I appreciate what he did with them. And then some of his other movies too were very odd and really out there. And so I kind of appreciated that they just sort of looked at that catalog of work and were like, all right, we'll work with this guy.
Have you ever seen his performance as John Lennon?
I have. That also stars, what is her name? The actress who played Toshiko in Torchwood.
Oh.
I think it's Naoko Mori.
Sounds about right. Yeah, she plays Yoko, right?
Yeah. That was actually a really interesting movie.
It is, and though it's kind of like odd seeing Christopher Eccleston with like the White Album era long hair and grainy glasses.
Mm.
Right, and kind of the whole John accent. That was...
Yeah, even though they're both from like Northern England.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you seen Nora Boy?
I haven't.
Oh my God, it's Aaron Taylor Johnson plays young John Lennon.
It's directed by his wife.
Yeah.
Wow.
He plays young John Lennon, and this is before he kind of like really blew up. I think it was before he was in the Kick-Ass movies and Quicksilver and other things. But yeah, he plays young John Lennon, and it's about how they start the Quarrymen and how he meets Paul for the first time and young George, and they don't mention the Beatles, they don't play Beatles music. It's not a Beatles movie. But it's about how he meets his mother.
Just Paul and Baby George.
Yeah. Well, the great thing is he meets how he rekindles the relationship with his mother, and that's super powerful. And there is a nice little nod to where like the Beatles are getting started, and his Aunt Mimi or whatever is like, oh, what's the name of the band? Who cares? Doesn't matter. Blah blah blah. But it's really cool because you get to see I think John punches Paul, and Paul McCartney was like, that never happened. Like, of course, in real life. But it's great because you get to see, like, the moment where, like, little Paul McCartney... I mean, they're both little in the movie, like, young. But, like, young Paul McCartney is teaching John Lennon how to play the cowboy chords on the acoustic guitar because his mom taught him the banjo and this and that. And it's a real treat for, like, Beatles fans because it's, most people don't read about, like, pre-Beatles John Lennon. But it's a nice little indie foreign film that came out years ago now. I'm not sure how many years.
I'll have to look that up. It sounds awesome.
It's a very cool movie, and it has enough nods to what becomes the Beatles, but it's again you're not going to see it because at no point do you see like the Beatles. You just see them as young kids.
Gotta love those Quarrymen.
Oh yeah.
Johnny and the Moondogs.
Johnny and the Moondogs. The Silver Beatles.
Rory and the Hurricanes.
Rory and the Hurricanes. Yeah. Was it Roy? Yeah, Rory and the Hurricanes with Ringo.
Yeah. Before he replaced Pete. Yeah. But yeah, so again, Bitch Planet triple feature is out in comic book shops everywhere and on Comixology on Wednesday, June 14th. And Heroes Con for all you guys in the Charlotte, North Carolina area is that following weekend. Conley, thanks for coming on the show.
Well, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. What
a lovely chat. We got to with these both the Bitch Planet triple feature interviews, we really go like into their interests.
Well, I do. I probably apologize because as soon as she mentions the Beatles and Kiss, we just fucking descend like wild people. And but no, that was fun. You know, I always like talking about
Southern Wild. That's us.
I always like what likes. I always likes what makes me cry a lot. I like talking about that, just sobbing uncontrollably during movies. So that was good. That was a fun one.
Has there been a movie since Pete's Dragon that you've cried at in theaters?
Oh man, I forgot to even mention on that. Pete's Dragon was a fucking wreck, dude. In the first like 10 minutes, probably nothing that hardcore because Pete's Dragon was crazy, man. And the funny thing is, I guarantee you, if I watch it right now, nothing, not a fucking thing.
That's because you're a stone cold
son
of a bitch.
Now I went to the Reston Town Center for that one for Pete's Dragon. I'd never been in that theater before. It was. I mean, this is a long time. You know, back when Pete's Dragon came out. This is like old news, but
years ago.
It was. It was the animated film, but with the pink hair. But no, that one was pretty intense, man. I'm trying to think. Like usually superhero movies. The second time I saw Logan because I knew stuff that was was coming. I got it.
When you saw Batman vs Superman, just because you were so sad at the movie.
The thing
not like it
yeah, like I was sad on a different level.
Like, oh, this is terrible.
No, you know what? I was talking to somebody about this recently about Man of Steel, and I shocked them with this revelation that I said I have to give Man of Steel credit for making me a born again Superman fan. Now let's not get crazy here. Like it was the trailer when the trailer dropped, and I probably told this a million times before. Like I probably told a million of those stories before on the interview. But the trailer, I believe it's the Jonathan Kent trailer before Dark Knight Rises. I did not know they were going to have a Man of Steel. I kind of blanked that they were having a Superman movie. I had seen the picture of him like in the safe. Remember when he gets thrown in there, and there's that shot of him, and I was like, oh, he's got like fucking Don Draper hair, like slick back. Because I've never been beholden to the Superman curl, the spit curl. And that trailer came out, and I was like, holy shit. Like, I was like, I haven't read Superman in a long time, like before college probably. And the way, the Jonathan Kent voiceover was really kind of, beautiful, and then that final shot of him, like, flying off and breaking this sound barrier or whatever. And I was like, wow, shit. First of all, he's moving faster than we've ever seen him before. And secondly, wow, I really haven't thought about Superman. I went out not immediately, but like the next day I went and bought Superman for All Seasons, All-Star Superman, and Birthright maybe. There was 3 Superman books I bought, and I read all of them, and I was like, oh my God, like I love this guy. Like I kind of, as I got older, was like, maybe, I was just reading Batman. I wasn't reading single issues. Sam was instrumental in getting me back into getting single issues again. I remember one of the first things I said to him when we were talking about doing our podcast, like the other podcast from a couple years ago, I was like, Superman has a collar? And he was like, yeah.
That was one of the more off-putting things.
Yeah, and so, yeah, anyway.
It's popped.
I remember that trailer kind of was like, I was like, you know what, I have to, I kind of thought, I was like, yeah, actually, that movie not happening, maybe I wouldn't be as big of a Superman nerd, born again Superman nerd as I am right now.
But going back to the Superman cape on your microphone
that's
right now.
That's right. But Batman v Superman, I'm trying to think, like, were there any parts in it for you guys that you got emotional at? Like, I think, because I saw it 3 times in theaters, I think seeing it the second time, the part that still kind of gets me a little bit is when he's about to charge in with the kryptonite spear, and there's fucking chaos everywhere. They cut the shot of Wonder Woman trying to contain Doomsday, and Batman just standing there trying not to get killed because he shot his load of the fucking kryptonite smoke pellet or whatever. I did it. I fucking did it.
I helped.
Which I am still convinced that's an homage to Akira, that shot where he fires and it like zooms in on him and he's like, but which that'd be awesome if it was. But the whole point of like, the movie up to that point is him like still struggling with being Superman and his, how did Dad know that Mom was the one? And that moment where he kind of like stops and she's like, you can't do this. He's like, you're my world. That's played really well. And that was a nice touching scene. Also from like the mega nerd, like Jake gets emotional at everything moment, I always do like and it's not like crying, but like a little lump in the throat where he sees the girl's in trouble on the TV and he turns and loosens his neck, he loosens his tie. And I was like, oh, that's such a classic old school Superman thing. Like, excuse me, And also when Bruce Wayne goes, I like those shoes when he's fucking wasted. That always makes me laugh. But Batman v Superman has like a couple things here and there in it.
Nothing for me.
Nothing.
Nah.
Nothing.
And out of the three of us, I'm the one that liked it the most.
Yeah.
But
again, this is me. I think overthinking. When I saw it like the second time,
Yeah.
I knew to look for that. I was like, you know what? I remember liking that moment. I don't like when I don't like how it's all played out, how he dies, but I like that moment before.
So you're saying that going back to Man of Steel, while you were watching that trailer, in the background, Max Landis was going, "I'm back. Superman's back."
I was like,
great.
It's great. I'm back, big B. But
Big B.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't think, since we were talking about emotional things. Sam, is there a movie recently you could think of that made you
Recently?
Rewatch Field of Dreams or
Well, I mean, yeah, but when's the last time I saw Field of Dreams? Like maybe February. It's like, oh God, why do I do this to myself?
this year? You have seen that movie more times than I have.
I've seen it like 3 times.
Total.
Is that now? Again, I might know the answer to this already, but for the sake of our listeners, is that movie like ugly cry, like you're like profusely tears and snot running down, or is it like the tear and the lip quiver?
Oh no, it's the first one.
It's like the ugly cry, like
It's full on. I'm sobbing. Yeah, yeah.
You need to grab onto something.
Yeah, I'm gone.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm a wreck. I'm destroyed.
there's something like so fucking great about that. You know what I mean? Like
Very therapeutic.
yeah, like after we talked to her, I went home and I went on. Yeah, it wasn't as like a powerful thing because you're watching it like out of context. But E.T. We talk about E.T. a lot, and I went home and I watched the scenes in E.T. that made me fucking cry. Weirdly enough, I felt nothing. But
You haven't watched it on my laser.
that's true. But the final goodbye is so fucking wonderful. But I watched the Superman moment from Iron Giant like 7 times, and I just kept rewinding it. And I was like, yes, yes, yes.
Still need to see Iron Giant.
Oh my God,
It's on Netflix now.
is it?
Yeah.
Oh shit,
Oh.
we should watch Iron Giant. It's so wonderful.
All right, guys, I'm gonna
Yeah, zone
clock
out now.
Did Mike Mignola do the art for that? Because it kind of looks Mignola-y.
For
Iron Giant.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I mean, it's based off a children's book that Pete Townsend did a concept album for called The Iron Man.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, it kind of that's what it kind of makes me think of, especially with like the way the people move and stuff. It's
Right.
not quite. My big gripe about I love the Iron Giant. My big gripe about the Iron Giant though is some of the artwork, the way that the movement in it looks a little choppy. It almost looks like unfinished. It doesn't quite. It lacks a bit of polish. But
I remember when I met Mike Mignola, and like I think that was the first time you and I went to a con together, Baltimore. I think we had just.
no, the first one we went together was Awesome Con.
Was it? Oh yeah, it was. At like 5 minutes because like remember the metro shut down.
Yeah.
I got a couple Rocketeer issues, which was key.
Yeah.
I think I also got the Nightfall where Bane breaks Batman's back. But I remember I had Gotham by Gaslight, and then I'm reading way too much into it. But there's like a look in his eye, like this isn't Hellboy. You know what I mean? Like, oh, this is nice. I was just like, I like the way you draw Batman.
Should have brought him like a copy of Atlantis: The Lost Empire, which he did do the art for.
Yeah. Because I can see where you see that. I don't know. I've never seen. I think Pete Townsend still gets like a producer credit for Iron Giant. I could be wrong because he was trying to bring. He was a huge part of that being adapted for years, and he, like I said, he does a concept album called The Iron Man, or maybe just Iron Man. That's nice. I haven't listened to the whole thing.
It's just all covers of Black Sabbath's Iron Man.
Yes, there's the bluegrass.
I have that.
Yeah,
Polka.
But so I don't know.
Ragtime. Yeah.
but nothing like no like new movie you can think of recently that you just felt that little
tug on the heartstrings.
tug on the heartstrings.
Um,
I know. Oh, well, Lego Batman had some moments that were nice.
yeah,
But
not,
it wasn't full on. I thought I was going to be wrecked during Lego Batman.
No, it was pretty good during Lego Batman. It was pretty good during John Wick and Fate of the Furious and
Well, I don't I don't know.
Alien Covenant.
Yeah.
Baywatch.
What'd you think of Baywatch?
Oh, it was garbage. But The Rock was fun. Zac Efron. But here's the thing that because Christian, I'm assuming you saw it too, right?
Yes.
Okay. I love the cast of the movie. Like The Rock, the Dario, Efron,
Hannibal Buress.
Hannibal Buress.
The girl that played CJ.
Yeah, she was good, and the other guy,
The guy that got his dick stuck in the chair.
Dick stuck in a chair. Yeah. I don't know why
that movie was filthy.
I don't know why they tried. Like the movie to me was like funny when they let Zac Efron be stupid.
Yeah.
But remember they tried to do like that like arc of him like learning. Like there's that like he gets wasted because he was a 2-time gold medal winner for swimming, but then he
in the Olympics.
But then he vomits in the pool during the relay, and they call him the Vomit Comet. And there's like scenes in the movie where like he gets wasted at a party because like The Rock and everyone's like, all right, we're on the case. And you kind of are taking. I kind of took Zac Efron's side, like you guys are lifeguards. Like, this is fucking insane.
Yeah.
But then like he gets wasted, he falls in the pool, vomits, and like they cut to Dario and she's like, oh, like like, and they're like, it's a vomit comet, and they play this like really kind of like, learn from it, And I was expecting him just to be, he shows up and they're just goofballs the entire movie. And again, I think a lot of it was I was hoping it was gonna be like 21 Jump Street, because 21 Jump Street fucking slayed that whole idea of like bringing this TV show and being self-aware, and they did that so well. 22 Jump Street was really funny, but I don't think it was as good of a movie as 21. 21, woohoo, 21, 21 is like I think a great movie, like a really, really great movie. Baywatch was funny and filthy, but I don't think it was a good movie. But like I said, I like the people like involved with it. The Rock,
you can tell that they were loving.
Oh yeah,
like, every minute of production.
Yeah, well, here one of the funniest parts of the movie for me. Like I laughed really hard, and the guy next to me was with like it was the dad and his son, and his dad halfway through goes, he had this really like raspy voice. He goes, "This is the stupidest fucking movie I've ever seen. I'm getting up and leaving." And he walked out of the movie, and his son just sat there and watched the rest of the movie. His dad, I guess, waited in the lobby. There wasn't. I mean, it was like halfway through. Yeah, but the funniest
kid, like 8 years old, shouldn't be watching this movie.
And Chris, you can let me know how you felt this, because I was fucking in hysterics laughing at this part. It's at the end they're like running in slow mo, like they're doing the whole slow mo thing, and Zac Efron falls, and I'm assuming that wasn't supposed to happen because he falls hard, like front flip. Slaps, and he's like it's slow mo.
He runs into
other people, and his face is like as he's like tumbling and hitting people. And I don't know if I was just sorry guys, I don't know if I was just happy the movie was over, because like I didn't love, I really but I knew what the fuck are they gonna expect here? A fucking genius movie. It was not good, but yeah, him falling over was pretty damn funny.
The movie was very much exactly what I expected it to be.
That's
like
fair.
it was a bit more vulgar than I was expecting, and like I'm no prude, but like I was like, oh, they are just dropping like F-bombs and like you can see dicks.
Props to them, because for a movie called Baywatch, zero boob, all dick.
Yeah,
you get to see Zac Efron
handle
a dead man's dick
and balls,
dick and balls.
Yeah. And you see a very clear outline of another gentleman's dick and balls when it's caught in the spokes of a beach.
They did the old flip flop.
Yeah,
flip flop.
And they literally referenced a line from "There's Something About Mary" with you got the Frank and the beans.
That's right. And I did like that The Rock's character calls Zac Efron's character Brody. He doesn't call him by his name for like the whole movie.
Yeah, no, like he says Brody like once.
Yeah.
Every other time it's like a reference.
He calls him
to
High School Musical, which was I thought a cute little thing.
Oh my god, the entire theater erupted.
Yeah, when he's like, "Come on, High School Musical," I was like, because he was in High School Musical.
I get it.
He was in 1, 2, and 3. He didn't sing in 1 though.
No,
he was
not
dubbed.
him.
No, he sang for 2 though. I don't know about 3. I never saw 3.
Been lied to my entire life. I love that you know that fact.
My sister.
It's because of Denise the Peace?
Yeah, Denise. Yeah, Denise the Peace.
But yeah, no, very fun movie. I know I say that as like a euphemism.
Did you like it better than that Central Intelligence movie with The Rock?
No, I'd say Central Intelligence. Was better.
Central Intelligence.
Yeah,
was better.
because
better Rock
because
movie.
it was, and it was also just like legitimately a better movie.
It was, yeah.
You know, like because I agree with everything that you've said about Baywatch being a bad movie.
Mm-hmm.
My thing is I don't care as much.
Mm-hmm.
Like as long as I can go,
yeah.
like every at least once every like 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Then usually it's good enough for me.
My thing was that like it was worse than I thought. And I thought it was going to be bad, but
I expected nothing, and I'm still disappointed.
There was a couple scenes that like they're out of nowhere, and like the dick getting stuck in the chair scene like went on for so long.
It did,
and like a lot of the movie is just random scenes that could have been either cut down or cut out entirely.
Yes.
That don't like the movie could have been like 40 minutes, and maybe that's why they left so many scenes in for so long.
Yeah.
But I mean. I kind of get why it's getting shellacked, but like I said, if The Rock wasn't in it, like no disrespect to anybody else, but if The Rock was in it, it would have been
a waste
unwatchable.
Yeah,
but because The Rock, he played like he's the why him playing Doc Savage if that's still happening makes so much sense because he's like the perfect person. Like him working doesn't he work at a Sprint
store
for a while?
Yeah.
That was kind of funny. And like I said, there's funny,
and
cute little gags in it.
The David Hasselhoff cameo was cute.
We all knew
that's
coming.
That's not a spoiler because he's in the opening credits.
Yeah.
So is Pamela Anderson.
Yeah, Pamela Anderson, who
waste of a cameo,
who moves in slow mo during real time.
Yeah,
that's the joke.
I was like, okay, that's a cute joke because they actually had like her moving in slow motion and in the same frame, The Rock just like being like, that's how we roll.
Yeah,
I was like, okay, fine, that's cute, but like she didn't even have a line.
No, she gets Episode 7 Skywalker. Skywalker treatment.
Literally.
Yeah, doesn't say shit.
Yeah, I was like, like I was like, I get it. You're gonna have a first of all, when their names popped up in the opening credits, I was like, "Fuck you!"
Yeah.
Like what I would have loved for those two cameos to be a surprise because you know me, I don't really look into things before I go into a movie. I wouldn't have seen the 12 articles or the IMDb listing that showed that they were going to be in it. But like I would have loved for that to be for both of them to be a surprise cameo. So for me to be sitting there the entire movie being like, "Where's Pam Anderson?" and then she just walks up in slow mo, during the last 2 minutes of the movie, and then just with her hair just back and forth. I was like, "Oh, what a waste!"
Yeah,
I bet she got paid a lot of money for that. Good for her. But like, but yeah, I agree. There's a lot of wasted.
It's a movie that like if Blockbuster still existed, it would have a very good like rental.
Yeah,
people would be like that'd be a movie that people would come in and it'd be like out for like the entire weekend. People wouldn't be that's if we're going back to old Blockbuster ways, it would have done very well in a Blockbuster.
I definitely agree with that. If you find a cheap movie day, I would totally recommend wasting 2 hours of your life and $5. I think it was worth that much. I didn't go to a cheap movie day. I went to like opening day because I had nothing to do because I had just broken my finger. So I couldn't go to work. So I was like, okay, I'll go see Baywatch.
Yeah, I mean,
and the theater was half empty, and I was like, that's a good sign.
Oh yeah, yeah. My sister's back home from college, and so she's graduated from college. So, she likes to go see movies, which is nice. So we, she loves Efron and I love Dario, so we kind of just went and did it for that. So, it was a nice experience, but like the movie wasn't that great.
Dario was looking good.
Oh yeah, always.
It's true.
Always.
Did kind of bum me out that her character's name was Summer, but that's because of my own past.
There's a character in.
All the characters were.
Yes, for following the mythos.
Yeah, there was a
Baywatch mythos.
CJ was Pam Anderson's character.
She was good. I guess she's like I don't know. I've never seen her in anything. Yeah, she was like fine. She was fun.
I looked it up because I was like, I feel like I've seen this girl before, or like she's a good enough actress that like I was like, oh, she must have been around for a while. And like I looked it up and I was like, there's nothing that I've seen that she's in, and she has like maybe a dozen credits.
She's a model first and foremost.
Yeah. But yeah.
Well, and also, you know what? I totally forgot until like halfway through the movie that this is Dario's second movie with The Rock.
Yeah,
San Andreas,
and they're gonna have a third. because San Andreas 2
Oh, dude,
is
remember
in
how
pre-production.
much damn fun San Andreas. Did you
Oh
ever
my
see
God.
San Andreas?
Yeah.
That was like so much damn fun.
After
that movie. Holy
after
shit.
hearing you guys go off for like a half hour about how great and how fun it was, I was like, I gotta go see it.
That movie is so much fucking fun, man.
It was so good.
And I mean, yes, it makes no sense that The Rock would leave his job and leave thousands to die and steal a helicopter to save his daughter. But who cares? It's The Rock. It was so much fun.
it was Daddario.
Yeah,
Worth it.
Yeah. Come on now. Come on, son.
Come on now.
Come on now.
Feet.
What about you, Sam? You get into anything this week?
I got new tires.
Ooh.
Not by choice. As you know that stuff is want to do.
Yeah. I did enjoy your post about it as much as I was like, oh damn, because your tire almost literally like ripped in half.
Yeah, like it was basically peeling off the
But I did enjoy the any landing you walk away from.
Yeah,
like that was cute, and naturally caused me to think of the guy from The Rocketeer. It's all part of the show.
Yeah, I mean, it was like suddenly I was on 66, and suddenly it was like I was off-roading because like I was going up and down, and I was like, huh? And then I like look in my rear view mirror, and there's like smoke billowing from my undercarriage, and I was like, well, this is going to be a pullover.
This is how I die.
Yeah,
I've experienced a similar thing. One night at the IHOP in Fairfax, I guess someone like stabbed one of my tires while we were eating, because on the way home,
it was me, Austin. It was me all along.
Thanks, Vince. On the way home, basically the same thing happened, but right here on the main road, right before you get into my neighborhood, and I pulled off to the side of the road. The tire hadn't like torn apart, but it was like flat, and I was like, I've only got a quarter mile to my house. I'm gonna chance it, and because it was like 2:00 in the morning. Yeah. I was like, I'm gonna chance it, and then tomorrow when I wake up, I'm gonna fix this tire. Sludged all the way home, and this was with my old Explorer, so it was already beat to shit as it was. But not a fun experience, and terrifying because it was the first time something like that had ever happened to me.
This is the first time something like this has happened to me, at least on the road and all. But
yeah, I've walked over to my car and been like, "Oh, that tire's flat."
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't the worst thing in the world. Yeah. It came out okay, but it just sucked. But I saw Alien Covenant.
There you go.
Which was okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's like right in the middle of all the Alien films.
Mm-hmm. It was a solid piece of the continuity.
It's not
I guess you could say.
Yeah, it's not a particularly bad film. It's just not a particularly good film.
Yeah.
And the saddest thing, and I think this is probably what lends more to that second criterion, I don't think it's that scary.
Mm.
And it tries to be.
Yeah. So there were definitely parts where I was like, they're trying to be a horror movie, and I think I said as much when I was talking about it
last week. Yeah,
like it legit for me. There were times where I was like, this is a horror movie, but I now that I've had like a week to digest it, I'm like, well, but it didn't really subside to balance out the very slow, boring chunks of it. They tried. They got some nice Geiger art snuck in there. That was cool.
And I do think, it leans more into horror than Prometheus does.
Yeah.
And I think it's a better film than Prometheus, but it's fun. I don't regret seeing it. It's just that I would only buy it if it was like on sale.
Yeah.
If that, it's a little better than Kong Skull Island.
Oh shit. There's a movie that made Jake cry. Yeah. Did you enjoy Danny McBride's performance?
Yeah, no, he doesn't do a bad job.
Yeah.
Fassbender does the best.
Yep.
McBride's fine. Catherine Waterston's fine, but I mean, she's no. There's kind of this thing where they're like, hey, let's try to replicate, which is fine. We need more strong female protagonists in science fiction. But if you constantly cut from the Ripley mold, you're just kind of unfavorably drawing comparisons to Ripley.
Yeah.
Which they kind of, It made me realize how much I love Noomi Rapace in Prometheus.
Mhm.
It's really
she's great.
You really care for her character, Dr. Elizabeth Shaw.
Yeah, when they revealed that she didn't survive into this movie, I was like, oh,
Yeah, yeah.
because she legit was like my favorite part of Prometheus.
Oh yeah, she's great. You know, you really do care for the character despite the material that she's given to work with.
Yeah. And she fucking cut a squid monster out of her stomach.
Dude, that was awesome. That's one of my favorite moments, like from the fucking series. Like that was so awesome.
That's a good one. Is a good one.
Better than the mass abortion of Alien Resurrection clone babies.
Remember
Sigourney Weaver
the
did.
what's it?
that was gross.
The human alien hybrid that's like tall and with sunken
that
eyes.
screams mother as it's getting sucked out of the... Because that's how the original end was supposed to be the first Alien, but they didn't have the technology. I think that thing's pretty fucking weird and creepy.
Yeah.
And it getting sucked out of the plane the into space is pretty fucking...
Gnarly.
Yeah,
Pretty
gnarly.
fucking metal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no,
fucked up.
I mean, it was fine.
That same death happens in Jason X.
Yeah. But
pretty much. They go through a grate as well, but...
You finished finished Riverdale?
Yeah, I've only got one episode left, so I won't spoil it for Sam, but I will say I know who kills Jason.
Yeah, you do.
But
how did you feel without spoiling? How did you feel about
all
that?
I'll say is the reveal and the performances by the kids
Oh my god.
is goosebump raising.
Yes.
Fucking unreal. Like that. First of
they
all,
do so well
they're
with
great.
that scene.
They're great. But first of all, the actress, and I don't, only person's name I know is Cole Sprouse, for Jughead. But so apologies. But the actress who plays Betty, she can cry on cue better than anyone ever. Because I mean, she, like 60% of her performance is like she's having to deal with like horrible things and like crying. You know what I mean? Like she's very good at that.
Yeah.
And she does that thing really well where like she gets the eyes and it breaks the plane in the single tear.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, they're all pretty good at that. There's a great scene with Archie where he's talking to his dad. And it's funny because I actually went back and rewatched the scene because Luke Perry, who I fucking love on the show.
Mm-hmm. Oh, he's great.
He's
probably my favorite adult.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He is the camera's focused on him.
Mm-hmm.
And he's saying something to Archie, and Archie's blurry. And the kid playing Archie, he cries anyway. His voice cracks because he's disappointed his dad, and as it's still blurry, you see him wipe away a tear, and the camera's still focused on Luke Perry. And I was like, damn, like that's a scene. He's letting that Archie have that scene, even though he knows he's not in focus. Like no one's really going to see that tear break, and then they focus on him as the scene's ending, and he's like he has like the line of the tear. I don't know, like. The performances are really, really solid, solid.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm kind of bummed, like I don't want to finish it because,
I kind of wish 6 months for
I kind of wish
two?
it was like Smallville where like it was 10 seasons were done and I could just binge all 10 seasons because like it's super fucking enjoyable.
Yeah.
Really, really. And I remember when they announced it, I was like, oh yeah, I'll probably check that out. Like very basic. I'm reading the Jughead comic right now. And Chip Zdarsky is Jughead. And it's cool because my sister's really into it now, and it's cool because she'll ask questions about like, the comic. That if that
the
leads
three
her,
of us should have a podcast. About
podcast about Riverdale. But like if this leads her to like actually read one of the new Archie comic books, that'd be the greatest thing of all time. Because she like is obsessed.
Get
with,
her
with
Archie
Jughead.
vs. Predator.
Yeah, she's obsessed with Jughead, and her two favorite characters are Jughead and Betty. But like they're all, I mean, like I said, they're all solid.
Well, she'll love Riverdale.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, because of Riverdale.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah. She didn't know who those really or any of the characters were before Riverdale.
Fine, neither did I.
So
technically,
I am enjoying it quite much. So that's it. I'm trying to think of anything else.
Yeah, it's pretty low key. You guys do anything Memorial Day weekend?
Worked. That's it. It was a busy day at work.
I went into DC, saw a friend of the show, Joy, at her bar, then came back and played a lot of Friday the 13th. Oh, that's a thing.
Yeah,
you guys might have noticed last week.
Yeah, that's right. Forgot the release schedule for a hot second. So you've already heard my Friday the 13th episode about the game. So that was fun. But yeah, so I've been playing that a lot. As I mentioned earlier, I broke my finger at work and I can't work, so I've just been sitting at home playing Friday the 13th, Grand Theft Auto 5 if I feel like I've been playing too long, and then watching TV. I just started rewatching Psych. Bought the whole series online because they took it off Netflix, and found a better deal than paying $15 per season on Amazon Video, which was nice because it's 8 seasons. But yeah, so just started rewatching that, and I forgot how many like iconic episodes are just in that first season alone. You know, you got the Comic-Con episode, which is the episode that got me into the show. You got the episode with Shannon Woodworth from Westworld, which to me that's an iconic one because I thought that her performance was really great, and that's half the reason why I watched Westworld, because I saw that she was in the cast. Just lots of good fun.
I'm bummed. I know it's been off Netflix for a while, but I'm
Yeah.
bummed it's off because when they announced that it was going to be leaving, there was no way I would have been able to watch the
Yeah.
whole thing, and I was like, I don't even want to start because I know that's a show I would really dig. I've seen a couple episodes.
If you want to borrow any of the DVDs,
Yeah, man, I've seen a couple episodes. I remember like I'd come over here like early before we started recording, and you'd be watching on a Netflix.
Yeah.
And so.
Oh yeah, it's a great. It's up there with Scrubs, which is also now off Netflix. I guess I'll have to buy that whole series.
I got
as
it.
well.
I got it.
Oh,
It's also
well,
on Hulu.
We can trade.
Yeah, trade Scrubs for Psych.
It's about the same amount of episodes, I think.
Yeah. Is it how many seasons you said? It was
8.
8. Okay. Well, yeah. If you're not counting the med school years,
Which I didn't hate.
yeah,
I think they focused on the wrong person.
yeah.
Like, it was great that they wanted to give it a female lead. That was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
You know, more power to that. But like fucking dude that was coming back to med school. What's his name? The number one, Cox's number one.
Yeah, I can't remember his name, but yeah,
He was a much better main character.
Well, I also liked, and I knew, when I was the last binge I did of Scrubs, I knew watching it that there was not a season 10.
Yeah.
I was bummed because Dave Franco's character I liked at the end that
yeah.
he decided he was going to be a surgeon and he was going to take that under his wing, and I was interested to see that play out.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the one actress who was kind of the lead in season 8 isn't in season 9. Remember?
Yeah.
And I liked her.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway.
But they do have the other girl that was in season 8,
Mm-hmm.
in season 9, who was also in Happy Endings.
Oh, she's fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
That was one of my favorites. That was one of the few, like, I know it wasn't a sitcom, it wasn't in terms of like,
Mm-hmm.
the live studio audience, but that was one of those few shows that I watched religiously.
Happy Endings?
Happy Endings.
Oh,
I
so good.
It was so
Because of
so
that,
funny.
One of my favorite parts in Iron Man 3 was Adam Pally's character.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. In the
like when
in the news truck or whatever.
Yeah, when Stark opens up the news truck and Adam Pally is in there in the theater, I made an audible because I feel so terrible for him because like he got on the Mindy Project, which is great for him because that did well, but I'm pretty sure that's over now. But he just hopped on to a new show on Fox called Making History.
Oh yeah.
And they got like 8 episodes in, and I think it's been canceled at this point. Like,
was that the one when they would go back in time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, it had such an interesting concept, but like it was just
Not good.
terrible.
That's too bad. I remember seeing a trailer for it, and I was like, that could be funny.
It could have been, but it wasn't. There were chunks of it that were good, but like it fell flat. And what's his name? The guy that was the bad guy in the new Ghostbusters movie.
Mm-hmm.
He was like John Hancock.
Oh,
and
really?
It was just and like again, that has potential to be hilarious, but it was just not.
I will say real quick.
Mm-hmm. Or maybe he was Benjamin Franklin.
He looks more like a Benjamin Franklin.
Yeah.
Anyway, I will say real quick. Speaking of Hulu, the reason I restarted it was to watch the documentary Batman and Bill about Bill Finger. It is everybody, sign up for the fucking 30 free days if you've never signed up before, because it is so worth just to watch. It's one of those great documentaries where it's a documentary about Bill Finger, but halfway through it becomes a documentary about the family as well. But then it also, it all leads up to Batman v Superman. That's the first big screen, and the first small screen thing was Gotham to say, Batman created by Bob Kane with Bill Finger. Ah. And it's amazing because Mark Tyler Nobleman, who was on an episode of Fat Man on Batman years ago, was talking about it. And I was like, oh, that's cool. He also did a children's book called, I think he's a more of a children's author, but he did a book called Boys of Steel about the creation of Superman. And so he became over almost a decade doing research, trying to find out, more about Bill Finger and getting him credit. And it's one of those things that when I was growing up, I just knew Bob Kane because that's where he was the only one written anywhere. So they do these great, when they do the recreations of the story or a flashback, they do it in comic style. It's drawn really cool and really well. And it's kind of amazing because, obviously we know, the fact that they change a credit line for a character is unheard of. That could, because that could potentially open the door down the line for that happening for any other character. But this is one that is deserved and needed to have happened. And there's a couple moments in it that will, speaking of getting emotional or tearjerkers, will definitely get you. And you don't have to care anything about Batman or comic books. Just as a human being, the small victories in this movie and the big victories and the moments. There's one story that I won't say for fear of spoiling the moment for you that I had no idea happened. I don't think anyone had any idea happened to Bill Finger, and it is so wonderfully touching and moving that it was worth it just watching that. And it's funny, when it was over, the next thing that popped up, just the autoplay, was the documentary Doomed about the failed Fantastic Four movie. And that was pretty interesting to watch too.
And also, there's Becoming Bond.
I haven't watched that one yet. Yeah, I was thinking about that, but Batman and Bill, highest marks. That is a fantastic documentary. Again, about giving someone the right, the rightful due. Decades, unfortunately, after their death, but hopefully, kids will grow up now knowing, who Bill Finger was and how important. I mean, how truly important he was to Batman. I mean, we always would, yell his name whenever we did the Batman commentaries, but, he really did deserve the most credit possible for really shaping Batman. So check that out. Check it.
Well, thanks again to Conley Lyons for coming on the show and for, coming to talk about Bitch Planet Triple Feature, which is out again Wednesday, June 14th in comic book shops everywhere and on Comixology. You boys got anything to add before we sign off?
Well, I reckon no.
I have said my piece for the week.
Piece of this. Oh. This has been another installment of Catching Up. I'm Sam.
I'm Chris.
I'm Jake. Thank you very much.
Good night, Eric Bana.
Fried chicken. This has been another Geek Out production. If you enjoyed what you heard, hey, we've got a special episode every Friday. Of course, there's the usual Catching Up show every Wednesday. And you get book club episodes just about every Tuesday these days. Thanks for listening.